For the past year, I have taken this sketchbook with me everywhere, from the tops of mountains to the ocean to concerts to my favorite bars and cafes. And what started out as a way to reincorporate art into my everyday routine turned into my favorite way to document my life. Today, I'm taking a look back through it and talking about some of the experiences that inspired the sketches. I started the sketchbook in November of 2023, and I just finished it, and it is September of 2024. So the first drawing that I did was a view from a winery that we rode our bikes to, and I figured what better place to start a sketchbook than with a glass of wine in hand and a beautiful environment. This is me working in the pottery studio late at night. I started out by just kind of capturing my day-to-day life. And so here's my family at the dinner table during Thanksgiving. We have some butterflies and some moths that were at the Nature and Science Museum that we went to over Thanksgiving break. And this is myself and my boyfriend on a little date night at one of our favorite cafes. Our friend makes all of the baked goods there, and so we usually just go for drinks and dessert. This is from a moment after a play that I saw with a friend. We stepped out of the building and it was blizzarding and it was dark out, and you could just see the snow absolutely coming down in this little triangle of light under the street lamp. And so we brushed off our car and drove home very carefully and listened to music, and it's a very fond memory. And here's a little coffee. I like to spend my mornings sketching. I like to start my day off with some creativity, and so I'll drink my coffee and open my sketchbook. My boyfriend and I also really like to cook, so here's a meal that we made, and we also really like to have friends over, and so for a while we were hosting game night, and that was a lot of fun. Speaking of friends, here is a little quick sketch of some of my friends at our Christmas party. This is my childhood home at Christmas time. It's a log house, and we've got a wood-burning stove, and when we put the tree up, it's just so cozy. And so I drew this sitting here with my family around Christmas time. And for New Year's, we rented this cute cabin in southern Colorado, and so I got to hang out with my family for a week or so, and it was also very cozy. These mountains are also in southern Colorado. It's Mount Lindsay and Mount Blanca, and they're both 14ers. And my pen kept freezing up, so I had to keep scribbling to make it work in order to finish this drawing on site. This is a quick self-portrait that I did on New Year's. It was a full moon and we had a bonfire, and it just represented a moment of self-reflection. This year was also the second year that I was learning how to ski, and so I can thank Carl for really teaching me how and giving me some confidence to get up on the mountain. I even kept track of the amount of days that I was on the mountain, and oftentimes I would get up there early and I would have my coffee and sketch a little bit before I started skiing. And on the weekends, after we spent the day skiing, we would come home and we would cook dinner. And so one night we made homemade ravioli, and this is Carl and his former roommate. And I remember we didn't have a pasta roller, so we just used a wine bottle. So making pasta on challenge mode a little bit. And here's another game night. I also made a lot of sourdough bread this last winter, and we got to see a lot of live music as well. This is the mountain view from the ski resort that we like to go to, and there's a picnic table at the top of the mountain, so I took the lift up there and I hung out and I drew this on site, and it's a gorgeous view. This was one of the first concerts that we got to see, and it's at this tiny little venue. There's a bunch of guitars hanging down from the ceiling. It's super cozy, but we got to see Olela, and she has lovely poetic lyrics, and she's a beautiful singer. She plays the cello and she loops her music, so I definitely recommend checking her out. One of her lyrics is "cozy in my bones," and that really stood out to me, so I wrote it down. And then later I went back in and drew a picture of myself and Carl petting a dog under a dining room table, and I felt like it was all very fitting. Most of the time, I really like to draw in person there in the moment, but sometimes I do take a picture and I'll take it home and finish it later. We also got the opportunity to ski at Winter Park, and so this was a drawing of the resort from my aunt and uncle's house. Carl's family also has a little tradition where they go up into the woods at night on a full moon, and we cross-country ski and make a huge meal and a bonfire with a bunch of friends, and so it was a lot of fun to be a part of that this year. This is another coffee shop hang, drawing with some friends. And another coffee shop, but this one was in Virginia, and I was there for the ceramics conference, and the girl that was sitting next to me actually asked if she could take my photo drawing this picture, and I said yes, and we got to talking. And she was a potter, and she actually gave me a pair of earrings that she made, and in return I gave her some stickers. This was another concert that I went to. It was Elephant Revival in Aspen. I'm a big fan of like folky, bluegrass kind of music, so go check them out if you are also a fan. And this was from a winter hike that we did. We stopped for a snack, and this happened to be our view, so I quickly sketched it out. I also got the opportunity this winter to go on my first backcountry skiing hut trip. So this was the hut that we stayed in, and there were about 5 guys, my boyfriend and myself, and we had a lot of fun. We made some big group meals. We were in charge of bringing snow in for water every day that we melted in this pot on the stove, and it was my first experience skiing in the backcountry, and it was truly a boost of confidence and so much fun. This little fox kept coming back and peeking through our windows, and we had a bucket of cheese sitting outside to keep it cold, and he tried to steal it. In May, we went to Mexico and spent a couple of days on the beach, and the highlight from that portion of the trip was probably stumbling into this seemingly closed bar, but in reality it was empty, and it was the owner's boyfriend and his dog inside. So we sat and chatted with him for about 4 hours, and he gave us mezcal tastings and made us custom cocktails and learned all about his life, and it was a great night. And later we went a little bit more inland to San Cristobal, and the streets are narrow, cobblestone, and super colorful and beautiful, and there are a lot of old VW bugs there, so we had a great time just exploring and walking around, seeing new sights, and eating a lot of delicious food. We even took a cooking class, and the chef that was teaching our class took us on a private tour of the market, and we got to try a bunch of different foods, and it was just so special to be immersed while we were learning how to make a traditional dish. And we've got in color some northern lights that we could see from Colorado over the summer, which was crazy. And this is Carl in his van, Sturdy Gertie. This was from our first camping trip. It took us all evening to find a spot, but when we did, we cracked open a cold beer, had a good meal, and hung out, and it was so relaxing. We spent a decent amount of time at this coffee shop over the summer. It was pretty close to Carl's old apartment, and the baked goods there are all homemade and absolutely delicious. This is 2 of my best friends celebrating Josh's 30th birthday. This was a rock climbing and rappelling adventure that we went on. I am absolutely terrified of heights, and I hadn't been rock climbing in probably a year, but we did it anyway, and once I conquered my fear of rappelling down this cliffside, we hiked out to this beautiful view called Artist Point, and then when it came time to climb back up, it was equally as terrifying, but we made it, and it was one of those type 2 adventures that you definitely won't forget. This was another concert that I went to, Sarah Jaros. This drawing I did on a paddleboard on a lake. This was some figure sketching practice of Carl fishing in the river. And here we've got another concert. We've got Mipso at the Palisade Bluegrass Festival. I definitely think if you have the opportunity to journal and sketch in the same book, that you should take advantage of that, because it is really special to be able to create kind of a storybook of your own life. These mountain drawings are from a 35-mile backpacking trip that we did over the summer. It was equally stunning and equally challenging. Our most difficult day was 14 miles over 2 mountain passes, and it was pretty rainy, but I'm still very grateful that we got to go and that I was able to capture some of these moments. The rest of the summer kind of went by in a flash, but we went four-wheeling and we did a lot more camping. This is a lake with some fog in the early morning. Then we went to a Red Rocks concert in July for Carl's birthday, and this is one of my favorite spreads because it fills the whole page. I also got the opportunity to learn how to carve marble this year at the Marble Carving Symposium. I had never done anything like this before, and I really wanted to challenge myself and see if I could do it. You start with a large chunk of marble and you start chiseling pieces off and refining with power tools and a hammer and chisel. I learned so much during this experience. I made so many friends. I got to camp on site and eat meals with everybody. It was a beautiful location. I had no idea how to carve marble when I started, and in the end I ended up with this owl sculpture that I was really happy with. And at the end of the whole experience, the week-long experience, we have a big party and everybody jumped in the creek, and it was such a great time. The progress that I've noticed in this sketchbook is a sketch like this in the beginning probably would have taken me twice as long. Even though this is a super simple, quick sketch, I think that by doing this project, it's allowed me to work quicker and to have a sharper eye for detail. This summer, I also got my first tattoo, and I really love butterflies and flowers, and so I went with a cabbage white butterfly and a California poppy. The last concert that we went to this summer was Shaky Graves at Big Bees. Big Bees is one of our favorite places to go to camp. They make hard cider. It's in the mountains, and we love Shaky Graves, so it was kind of all of my favorite things all in one. And at this point in the sketchbook, I knew that I was probably going to be going to Switzerland, so Carl and I were kind of going around saying our farewells to some of our favorite spots. And finally, to end the summer, I drove with my sister out to Washington to send her off to her third year of college, and we spent the week hiking and exploring, going to the beach. I was super excited to see all of the wild blackberries that were growing there. We got to see an owl pretty up close. We collected a whole bunch of rocks. There were a ton of mushrooms everywhere on our hikes. This was my first time in Seattle, and we got to go to the market, and we bought some flowers and had lunch. And it was a really great week and a really great way to say goodbye to the summer. And lastly, as one final send-off, I went to one of our favorite dessert spots that I had a picture of in the beginning and had a giant slice of cake and some homemade liqueur tastings. And then I also had a send-off with my parents and 2 of my best friends. This drawing I did in the airport and on the airplane, so I had a lot more time to work on it. I really love how it turned out. And lastly, we've got a drawing of my mom with our cats the day before I left. And then here is a quick little sketch from the bus window on the way to the airport. And that's the end. It's pretty crazy to be able to physically close a chapter of my life. And now I've got a brand new sketchbook, and I'm here in Switzerland. I've already got one drawing started, but I'm excited to fill the rest and to see where it takes me. So tag along if you want to see where it goes. I will be sharing here, and I will also be sharing on my Instagram. I'll link that down below. So thanks so much for watching and for following along. I hope this inspires you to start your own journal journey.